Are reptilians connected to extraterrestrials? And by reptilian, I mean the population of the ancient myths and also all of the animal species that we have now on this planet. Are they connected to extraterrestrial? What's the deal with these reptilians? Since the 1970s, there have been about 3 or 4 reports about people claiming to have seen lizard men. These claims always talk about these beings almost as if they're still feral, while we see the connections to the serpent gods of mythology. So clearly the legends of mythology with what these people claim to have seen are very different. In South America, Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan are always referenced as the serpent gods. So ancient man seemed to be interacting with what appeared to be serpent beings, what we could now determine as a lost reptilian race. These stories of the serpent gods are literally found all around the world. And we're not talking about just one tribe. Basically, every continent on all of the planet has the same myths of the serpent gods. And these legends and stories, by all means, by who they were not written down as myths or fable. They were writing down what they saw. So how did all of these people across the world that didn't communicate with each other tell the same stories of these serpent gods? You have them in India, in China, in Greece. You have serpent beings in England, in North and South America. So it doesn't matter where you go in the world. There are these direct references to these serpent gods, to these serpent beings and reptilians. There is a lot of modern modification to the ancient stories. On my channel, I try to stay true to the real mythology, the real legends, the real cuneiform tablets. And since so many people all around the world reference to them, it can't be a figment of imagination. Did we imagine all the same thing? There's also reference of these serpent beings coming from the sky. Yet other legends talk about inner earth, how they live below ground in these intricate tunnels and caverns. It's actually said that that's how they survived cataclysms of meteor showers, meteorites, and the flood. Let's see what else. And in addition to myths and legends passed down by oral tradition, there are the famous ancient texts that always refer to these serpent beings, these serpent gods. Even the Bible speaks of a reptilian race. You didn't know that, did you? Let me explain. They call them the seraphim. And it's funny because, like, the common misconception is that they are angels. I'm coming closer and closer to the conclusion that what modern-day people call angels were actually extraterrestrials. So in the book of Isaiah, they refer to them also as the fiery ones. They are the seraphim, but by all accounts, by the description, these are reptilian beings. And some of these reptilians are just like people. Some are good and some are bad. So in all of the religious texts that I found references to reptilians, they're always connected to the earth. And this, I believe, is where we started to find the first evidence that the reptilians were the first inhabitants of Earth, way before the Anunnaki with the Sumerian cuneiform. Even in the book of Genesis, we have the serpent being in the Garden of Eden that tempts Eve. So the story about the punishment of the serpent having to slither on the ground for the rest of eternity, that's just a cute made-up story, because there's actually no evidence to that story actually being factual. But there are references all over the world about reptilian beings being connected to the serpent gods. So prior to the story about the serpent being cursed by God, and now he slivered, the accounts before that had the serpent as people, as humanoids. And the serpent from the Garden of Eden was a race called Nahash. And it was only one of this vast variety of reptilian beings. And you're going to be really surprised. because these reptilian beings served God. So how can this all be possible? It's possible because this specific story was modified from really, really older ancient Sumerian tales. In the Quran, we have a whole bunch of stories regarding entities called the jinn. And the Quran says that the jinn were here on earth before humans. And they're a category amongst themselves, separate from angels. And in the Quran, the story goes that this jinn was rebellious towards God, and just like in the Bible story, he was cursed for his disobedience. And the God of the Quran cursed these reptilian beings to stay on earth for eternity and never be able to leave. This is why it's so important to me to read all of the information we have from all different points of views, all different religions, because when you do the math at the end, they're all talking about the same entities, the same stories, just changed in different languages, different names, and it's also fascinating. In the Mediterranean, there is this myth and belief that reptilian snakes and all of the creatures like that are connected to ancient souls. So as you see, the reptilians are nothing new. This goes all the way back to ancient history. And that is